The RMS Lusitania was a British ocean liner, holder of the Blue Ribbon, and briefly the world's largest passenger ship. Her construction began on June 9, 1904, and was launched on June 7, 1906. The Lusitania and Mauritania were commissioned by Cunard, responding to increasing competition from rival transatlantic passenger companies, particularly the German Nord-Deutsche Lloyd and Hamburg American Line. They had larger, faster, modern, more luxurious ships than Cunard and were better placed. The Lusitania weighed 31,550 tons. Her length was 787 feet long, height 60 feet, but her real height is 165 feet. Decks, 9 passengers decks. Her full speed was 26.5 knots. The RMS Lusitania began her maiden voyage on September 7, 1907, from Liverpool to New York at 4:30 p.m. A crowd of 200,000 people gathered to see her departure at 9 p.m. for Queenstown. In the outbreak of World War I, when Lusitania was built, her construction and operating expenses were subsidized by the British government. Many of their large liners were laid up over the autumn and winter of 1914-1915. By the early 1915, a new threat began to materialize: submarines. At first, they were used by the Germans only to attack naval vessels, and they achieved only occasional but sometimes spectacular successes. Then the U-boats began to attack merchant vessels at times, although almost always in accordance with the old cruiser rules. Despite to gain an advantage on the Atlantic, the German government decided to step up their submarine campaign, as a result of the British declaring the North Sea a war zone in November 1914. On February 4, 1915, Germany declared the seas around the British Isles a war zone. From 18th February, Allied ships in the area would be sunk without warning. The Lusitania was scheduled to arrive in Liverpool on March 6, 1915. On April 17, 1915, the Lusitania left Liverpool on her 201st transatlantic voyage, arriving in New York on April 24th. A warning was printed adjacent to an advertisement for Lusitania's return voyage. The warning led to some agitation in the press and worried some of the ship's passengers and crew. Lusitania departed Pier 54 in New York on May 1, 1915 at 12:20 p.m. A few hours later, after the vessel's departure, the Saturday evening edition of the Washington Times published 2 articles on its front page but referring to those warnings. On May 7, 1915, the Lusitania was nearing the end of her 202nd crossing, bound for Liverpool from New York, and was scheduled to dock at the Prince's Landing stage later that afternoon. Aboard her were 1,266 passengers and a crew of 696, which combined totaled 1,962 people. She was running parallel to the south coast of Ireland and was roughly 11 miles off the whole head of Kinsale. The liner crossed in front of the U-20 at 14:10. Because of the liner's great speed, some believe the intersection of the German U-boat and the liner to be coincidence, as U-20 could hardly have caught the vast vessel otherwise. Walter Schweiger, the commanding officer of the live U-boat, gave the order to fire 1 torpedo, which struck the Lusitania on the starboard side, just beneath the wheelhouse. Moments later, a second explosion erupted from within Lusitania's hull, where the torpedo had struck, and the ship began to founder in a much more rapid procession, with her prominently to starboard. Almost immediately, the crew scrambled to launch the lifeboats, but the conditions of the sinking made their usage extremely difficult, and in some cases impossible due to the ship's severe list. In all, only 6 lifeboats were launched successfully, with severe more overturning and breaking apart. 18 minutes after the torpedo struck, the Lusitania sinks. The bow struck the seabed, while the stern was still above the surface, and finally it slid beneath the waves. The sinking caused an international outcry, especially in Britain and across the British Empire. But the wreck of the RMS Lusitania lies on its starboard side, an approximately 30-degree angle in roughly 300 feet of water, 11 miles south of the lighthouse at Kinsale. The wreck is badly collapsed on her starboard side due to the force with which she struck the bottom, coupled with the forces of winter tides and corrosion in the decades since the sinking. Many works of art, media, and entertainment were inspired by the sinking of the vessel. These are discussed in Sinking of the RMS Lusitania Cultural Significance. Thank you very much for watching the video.